Welcome to yet another classic review here in Rauta. People who have been following my channel for a long time should probably already know that I'm a big Slayer fan, that being one of my favorite bands. But why do I dare or kind of waste my time on an album which is so kind of a classic, like uber classic, that it probably needs no introduction? Well, I asked this question from myself a few months back, and then I got this reply. Maybe the younger generation, maybe they don't know all these classic albums even though they should. And as such, they kind of pointed out that, Jerry, maybe even now and then you should take another look on these older albums, whether or not they are by definition the kind of a classic albums to you, and talk about them a bit. So I figured, why the hell not? And the reason why I decided to go with Slayer in June is that I'm just about to go see Slayer on the last weekend of June 2019. That is the very same weekend this video is about to be broadcast, and Slayer will be playing there. So there you have it, Tuska Festival 2019 with Slayer. So why just this album? Well, for another reason, for no reason at all, was this, that there was not like this album would be 30 this year or 25 or whatever. So I was like, okay, I probably haven't even talked about Rainy Blood previously, so this should be my selection of choice. After all, it's probably the best metal album of all times, and they released one of my all-time favorites, the one of those few albums which I would consider kind of perfect metal album. So here we have my personal old CD of Raining Blood. As you can see, the background image is already there, but let's talk about this, how albums used to look so different in the 80s. As you can see, this is not a beautiful piece of graphic design. It's all like a little bit, not ridiculous, but it's kind of a cheap ass and all that stuff. But that's how it went back in the days. I must say, I didn't find Slayer back in the 80s. Maybe I was too young, maybe I didn't know all the people listening to heavy stuff such as this, but hey, that's how it goes. It was early 90s when I was really getting into Slayer, and when it hit me full blast. So as you can see, this booklet, being kind of old school, it's very simple. Just lyrics, even black on white. Cannot go any more cliche or classic or whatever than this one. So here you have it in a very simple way. And now this cover requires a few words. There have been a lot of theories which characters are on the cover. Some have said they're Paul McCartney, Satan, Hitler, even Pope, but these are not something that even the the cover artist that is, wasn't kind of a confirming. Whatever the case, it is up to our imagination to, fill the gaps and see how it goes. So what about the music? That is the thing that means the most. Well, like I said, this is one of the most important metal albums for me personally of all time, and the reason is this: it is so goddamn aggressive, kind of intense. It's pure, it's magical, it's just everything that there is to expect from a metal album. Now, you have to understand that this album came in 1986, only 5 years after Slayer's debut album. Not debut album, but when it was founded, that is. And I was curious, like checking out, like if I don't just keep talking out of my ass or anything like that. The same thing pretty much appeals to, is part of the other thrash metal bands. I mean the big four. If you take a look at Metallica, 5 years later, their third album also, like Rain Blood is to Slayer, came Master of Puppets, 1986. Anthrax was also there between Spreading the Disease and Among the Living, so almost hitting that 5 years mark. And then we have Megadeth, which was also with the 5 years in, it was like having their third album. So all these bands in common basically have that they were very much uh, in very creative phase, very active, um, constantly creating new music, very good quality. They have gotten their like first albums out, and they would just getting better all the time. Musicianship was getting better. Uh, how the production of the albums were there, even the singing of all these bands get better. I mean, if you just compare like Slayer or Metallica, compare the third album versus the first album, you can pretty much see how the young gentleman voice is just getting this kind of raspiness instead of being this kind of like we're going to just get a more masculine voice and stuff like that. So basically Slayer was already going through this phase, and they probably didn't even know how great an album they would be recording when they did Raining Blood. I mean, let's be honest about it. This is an album which doesn't have any mediocrity in it. Doesn't have, mediocre tracks, mediocre production. Everything is just goddamn great. Uh, for example, it starts with Angel of Death, which is often said to be one of the best or the best metal track of all times. And while for me it would be kind of impossible to just select one track above others, that could be my candidate as well. I mean, it's just a perfect thrash metal track. It's perfect metal track in so many ways. Whether we're talking about lyrics, the kind of a feeling, the intensity, and all that stuff, it's just beautiful track. There's another classic which isn't on the set list usually, but Piece by Piece. 2 minutes in, and it's sort of like pounding your face with fists. Then obviously we have Necrophobic, Altar of Sacrifice, Jesus Saves, which is a curious title for a band that was known for kind of satanic or at the very least anti-Christian feeling. So, I mean, it's just all over the place with the whole album, beating and this intense riffing and how the solos. I mean, they don't often make sense, but without them, Slayer wouldn't be Slayer. Um, Obviously, we got Criminal Insane Reborn, and then it kind of slows down for a bit, just to emerge with Epidemic, Postmortem, and finally Raining Blood, one of the best tracks of all times, once again. So we have like a killer, like absolute killer opening track and an absolute killer ending track. And everything that is left between wouldn't even feel like secondary to this whole album if it wasn't so goddamn good what they have in the beginning and in the end. Now it's only less than 30 minutes. It's like 29 minutes. And it's just pure cold. Like, I could just be listening to this album days and days and days and I wouldn't get bored. I mean, basically I've tried. Not literally like that, but you get the idea. So, while I just could, remember, general feeling and some of the riffs and whatever in my head without even playing the album, I could still just, put it there and, enjoy the whole album. Like I did just recently, not related to this video, but just doing my workout at my garage gym. And I was like, oh, why don't I listen to this kind of stuff more than this? Well, obviously, the review albums. But the point here is, this is just a stunning killer album where all the things just fit together perfectly. I mean, Tom Araya's vocals, they're just beautiful. And also, I mean, when you think of Jeff Hanneman's or Kerry King's riffing or the drums, which are just beautiful, they're gorgeous, they're maniac stuff. I mean, like, there's nothing I could totally bitch about this album. So it's like perfect thrash metal album, perfect any kind of album for me. So once again, I need to just express how much I kind of worship Slayer's music at its peak hours. I mean, it's just marvelous things. There are other bands, obviously, which are pretty much on the same level, but they are very few, all in all. So what can I say? By the time you're watching this and okay, he's just talking about this old classic album, I'm probably having an eargasm while listening to Slayer. So there you have it, June's classic album. And if you are of younger generation who, for one reason or another, have totally missed skip or whatever this album, give yourself a chance and listen to this beautiful, beautiful piece of metal art. Hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching and see ya soon again.